I'm Andrew, and I'm setting out to make better videos for diesel enthusiasts. Follow along as I review products, do how-tos, and share my personal trucks here on Just Diesels.
Welcome back to the channel, guys, and I want to start this out by making an apology. So I bought the 5th gen, posted it on the YouTube channel, and then haven't really done anything since then. So I've done a lot of Instagram stuff with this truck, but I am long overdue for a build check with you guys on YouTube. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5th gen from end to end. This is basically my do-it-all, family hauler, exploration, off-road, you name it rig. I wanted a truck that could literally do absolutely anything I pointed it at, and this is going to be the build tour of how I made that happen. So for any of you guys that missed the initial video on this truck, this is a 2020 Ram 2500. It is a Laramie level 2 trim originally, and this truck was actually purchased from the dealer in this color. This is a factory olive green pearl coat. It was only available pretty random trims and years, only for a little while, so this is a super rare factory color. Cole from CJC Off-Road actually previously owned this truck, and so they have done an awesome job documenting the build on that channel, and I kind of walked everyone through the history of this truck when I initially bought it. That said, I can't leave things well enough alone, and I felt like there was a bunch of stuff on this truck that still needed to be tended to, and so under my ownership, I have done quite a few upgrades, a lot of cosmetic changes, and I think a lot of stuff to really just kind of tie this truck together. Now, the key of what makes a lot of that happen is actually suspension on this truck, so let's dive into that first. So the suspension system on this truck is a Carli 3.25-inch Dominator suspension system. This is just like any other 3.25-inch Carli system, but the key here is going to be this uses a massive 3-inch diameter king shock, totally custom done for Carli. They call it the Dominator shock package. Everything on these shocks is completely custom for Carli. The bodies, the lengths, the mounting, the pistons, everything about them, the tuning is totally custom for Carli. And actually, if you're familiar with these trucks, you can't normally mount a 3-inch diameter shock in these trucks front or back. So up front, there's actually weld-on lower shock mounts that slightly cant the shock out so it doesn't hit the bolts on the radius arm. And in the rear, there's actually completely custom fabricated brackets that come in the Carli Dominator kit, but they basically allow these shocks to mount outboard of the frame. So normally the shock shaft actually passes through the frame rails in the truck on these 14 plus 2500s. With these rears, the shock's actually so big it has to go outboard of the frame. Now you may notice these shocks are a little bit different in color than most Kings. These are actually totally custom coated, so they have a black Cerakote body, gold anodized end caps, and it really is a cool finish on these shocks and makes them super durable. Other upgrades on this system include the Carli torsion sway bar, a lot better front end ride quality, much better articulation, just smoother all around ride. This is a really awesome upgrade on these. Also has the Carli radius arms. These are a big ticket item in terms of improving tire clearance, but also strength. And then these also are really nice for improving articulation, because unlike most radius arms in the market, they actually use a spherical frame side joint. So you're going to get more articulation, better small bump compliance. These are a nice upgrade as well. And then at the back of the truck, we're going to be using a Thuren rear track bar. If you have one of these 14 plus 2500s, highly recommend some sort of upgraded rear track bar that corrects geometry. The rear of these trucks loves to wag and kind of laterally move. Using a track bar like this that has a longer, flatter bar that's going to correct a lot of the geometry, really cut down on that lateral wag, keep the truck feeling so much more planted. Now, this truck also has the Carli high mount and low mount steering stabilizers, as well as a fully fabricated Carli axle truss. That means that the lower part of the axle has a fully weld-on truss to support it so it cannot bend. That means I can jump this truck, I can push it as hard as I want off-road through whoops, etc., and the axle will not have any issues. I also have Carli ball joints on this truck. And then finally, I have an Apex drag link to kind of round out the suspension steering on the truck. I went through about 3 factory drag links before finally saying, just screw it, I'm gonna do the Apex drag link, and I have not had to worry about it since. Now you may be wondering, how am I towing with this truck, because this suspension system is a whole lot softer than stock. And that is happening via the full travel airbags. This is probably the coolest airbag kit on the market. They have these available for GM, Ford, and Ram trucks. A little bit different designs, but the concept is the same in that you are maintaining full compression travel and full droop travel with these airbags. So normally with an airbag kit, you're giving up a lot of that. With these, you do not give up any of that. That's because the airbag actually quick releases out of the frame. So there's a billet bracket on there that has a channel, and I can drop in the factory bump stops and then quick release out and throw the airbag in. So I can tow with this truck and then pop the airbags out, pop the bump stops in, and go jump the truck half an hour later. So it is very cool. It's an awesome system, super versatile. What I love about this is it fits the mission of the truck perfectly. I can literally do anything I want to in this truck with no issues. Now, the other goal of the 3.25-inch Dominator system was to have a little bit more room for tires, and I absolutely pushed it to the limit on this. So I'm running a 38 by 13.5 Toyo MT on this truck with a 0 offset 18 by 9 foundation wheel. This is the Foundation 395 HD, and if you guys are familiar, this is actually my wheel, my company. I designed these wheels, and it's so cool to see these wheels on this truck because this is the truck that I pictured them on. This bronze finish, everything about it. This is literally exactly what I pictured them looking like on the truck, and it is so cool to see that. Now, in terms of trimming, I did have to do a decent amount of trimming. Most of the pinch weld is trimmed off the truck, and then I actually have a pretty neat little job on the fender liners. So I've actually zip tied to pull them back and done some basic trimming to protect the wiring harnesses, but that gives me the room necessary to clear these massive 38-inch tires. And yes, I can jump the truck and still clear the 38. So it is very cool to see that kind of level of clearance, but when you play with the wheel specs and the tire specs just right, you can make it happen. So now that we've got the suspension out of the way, let's get into the cosmetics. There's actually a lot of cool cosmetic tweaks on this truck that aren't a ton on their own, but additively on the whole truck really kind of separate it, in my book at least. So this truck was originally a Laramie Level 2, like I mentioned, and it had a lot of chrome on the truck, and it just looked kind of plain and basic. So I wanted to, when I got this truck under my control, really kind of go through this thing and make some major upgrades. So Jeremy over at Retroshop, once again, worked his magic on the lighting and badges. It did an incredible job. That's pretty much who I've used for all of my trucks in terms of lighting and badges. But on this one, what I opted to do is swap out the headlights for a limited trim headlight. To me, that's exactly what this 5th gen body style was designed for, but I wanted to make some more tweaks just from the factory limited trim lights. So we actually opened the headlights, color matched them all to the olive green pearl coat color, and then tied in the bronze accents in the headlight housings themselves. Didn't stop there though. We actually swapped out the DRLs to amber. So Jeremy actually pulled out the boards, swapped in an amber DRL board. And in the lower part of the light, there's that lower light section. Normally that's actually just an incandescent bulb. I didn't feel like that kind of fit the look. And so what we did was swap in a switchback LED strip running full-time amber. So now there are 2 lateral lines of amber. I think it looks really nice, a little more modern, futuristic, and just really kind of pulls that truck to make it look different from anything else on the road, right? There's no other limited headlight that looks like this. And so I feel like it's really cool to kind of separate the truck from everything else out there. While he was doing all the paint match work, I also had Jeremy do a bunch of custom badges for the truck. So we did the Ram logo on the grille, the C-bars on the grille, as well as the 2500 emblem and the rear ram head, all totally custom colored. Again, just to tie in the bronze accents on the truck. I also had another guy build some custom Cummins emblems. These tie in that bronze theme as well. So those are bronze and black with a gloss clear coat. Really nice look. And again, just kind of tying everything together and making this truck look special. At the rear of the truck, I also did color match rear taillights. I know that these are kind of hit and miss. Some people love them, some people hate them. But to me, I just felt like a red taillight looked totally out of place in this truck. And so the color matched kind of tinted and green taillights with the bronze Ram logo really just kind of sets this thing apart and makes it look like a proper show truck. Like you see this truck and you realize this is not just kind of the average build. Finally, to tie in the bronze, I also did the custom shock decals from CJC Off-Road, tied in some custom Carli logos on all of the suspension components, and then also pulled off the tow hooks and had those done bronze as well. If you're wondering what color this is called Satin Highland Bronze. It's from Prismatic Powders, but that's going to be kind of the bronze theme on this whole truck. Additionally, in terms of cosmetic upgrades, one of the big ones on these trucks is actually the CJC built intercooler guard and skid plate. So this is a small item, but it really transformed the front end of the truck. You basically take off the really ugly plastic valance that hangs down from the bumper, swap this on, you get a ton of ground clearance, but it just really makes the truck look more aggressive. Speaking of aggression, I also did a bunch of lighting upgrades. So let's get into that next. To start out with, I did the CJC built fog light kit. This is going to be using a Baja Designs Squadron Sport Amber fog light. Nice upgrade in power over stock, like pretty much night and day. And they offer a couple different power levels. You can do the SAE if you want street legal, mine at the sport, so they're right in the middle. And there's also the pros that are extremely bright. I didn't want to go with the pros because I have the next thing on here, which is the CJC built XL cradle. So this goes in the lower portion of the bumper, and I can mount 4 Baja Designs XL LED lights down in there, nice and tucked in flush. But these are pretty much some of the brightest lights on the market for their size. and they pack in really nicely down there. I can operate them off of the factory auxiliary switches on the truck, and these offer a ton of light for when I'm driving up to Mammoth late at night, doing long road trips through the desert. These are exactly what you need, and what I love is they're totally tucked in the truck. Now getting into some of the powertrain stuff. This truck is still under full factory warranty, so I know it's going to upset a lot of you guys, but this truck is pretty much in terms of powertrain mostly stock because I see no reason to let go of the factory warranty, especially living in California. So I've made a couple of upgrades here. So for one, I have the Banks DPF exhaust system. This is a DPF back system, fully emissions compatible, and just kind of cleans up the look of the truck, I feel like. Just a nice upgrade so you don't have that ugly stock pipe hanging down. I also did a PML rear diff cover, just again, kind of more of an aesthetic thing, but I guess I'll put it under the power category. And then for the tank, I actually did an S&B long range fuel tank on this truck. If you've driven one of these mega cabs, you know that the fuel tank is actually kind of small. So with this tank, I can go between 700 to 1,000 miles on one single tank. So for road trips, long towing trips, anything like that, this is a much needed item. I love this tank. I can actually fill up in Arizona, drive all the way back to California on one tank of fuel, no problem. So if you do long road trips, if you're doing stuff like that in your truck, these long range S&B tanks are an awesome upgrade. In terms of the actual engine itself, really not a whole lot changed, but I did do an Edge EZX. Now what's cool about the EZX is it's fully emissions compliant. It's going to maintain all your factory emissions equipment. I can actually smog the truck with this on, but it's going to give me a couple of key things. So one, I'm going to get throttle sensitivity adjustment, so I can actually boost throttle sensitivity in the truck. It does actually add power as well, so I can change the power on the truck. I can bump up just a little bit, and it is actually noticeable. It kind of gets rid of that dead pedal that you feel on these, 4th gen to 5th gen trucks. And it also does a lot of other cool things for the truck. So it does things from having exhaust brake memory recall to tow and haul button recall. I can also change TPMS thresholds. I can change the speedometer. There's a ton of cool stuff that this EZX does. So if you're looking at kind of a device that's, California compliant, emissions compliant, maintains your warranty, all that stuff, this is a really, really cool setup. I paired that EZX with an Edge CTS3 gauge system. To me, I just love this gauge system. It's a nice rectangular layout. I can see everything I need to see on the truck. So I can see exhaust temps, coolant temps. I can check engine codes if I need to and clear them. Everything I would need to do is basically fully done in this unit. So just an awesome upgrade on trucks. If you are towing, if you're hauling, if you started making changes outside of factory like bigger tires, it's just a nice way to keep an eye on everything and make sure everything's kosher on the truck. In terms of the interior of the truck, pretty much everything is stock on the interior. So the only thing I did do is I did Xpel Ceramic window tint on the truck. That is a awesome upgrade. I did 20% on all the sides and then a 30% on the windshield. The ceramic tint, if you're not familiar, is fully UV proof. So 99% of UV is blocked, and then it's very heat rejecting as well. So even when it's super hot out, you feel pretty much no warmth from the glass. American Wrap Company in Camarillo, California knocked that out of the park. Awesome install as always. But yeah, one of those dumb things, but just such a nice upgrade on any truck. Finally, coming towards the back of the truck, one other upgrade that I love and now I'm going to have a hard time living without is the Real Truck Retracts bed cover. What's cool about this bed cover is it, is a nice retractable bed cover, but what's nice is it locks in any position, so I can have my mountain bikes, snowboards, you name it, in this cover fully protected. But it also has T-slot rails, so I can mount my rooftop tent using their included rack system, and I can slide those mounts in, have the rooftop tent on, pull them off, have the bed free. So in about 10 minutes, I can swap between having the rooftop tent on the truck and off the truck, which makes for a really nice setup for just, camping on the weekends. Take it off, I can go tow a trailer, do whatever I need to do the rest of the week. So that is a super cool system on this truck just to keep all my gear protected, snowboards protected, bikes protected, and still have full use of the bed. So I know that was a mouthful, but to me, this is pretty much the perfect recipe for a do-it-all 5th gen Ram, right? I can tow, I can go off-road, I can comfortably commute, I have decent upgraded power, but I'm still fully emissions compliant, still warranty compliant. This truck pretty much checks every box I could ever want to check. And if you haven't had a mega cab before, the space in these trucks is amazing. Once you have it, you get super spoiled by it. There's tons of space behind the rear seat for gear storage, car seats, no problem. 6'4" friends in the back, no problem. And then I still have the full bed for all my gear. So this is such a cool truck, and it's been a perfect adventure tool for me, pretty much going anywhere I need to go. This is an awesome, awesome rig. Of course, the truck looks killer too. The olive green pearl coat paint, the bronze accents, everything else. This is just such a mean looking truck. So this has been something that I have totally fallen in love with. And I think, I've been an older truck guy for a long time. Like if you guys look back at my videos, everything I've owned has been older. This is my first time owning a new truck, but this has been such an awesome truck to me. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're building a 5th gen yourself and you have questions about the specs on this truck, fitment, anything else, shoot them down below. Happy to answer. I will also have links to a lot of the parts that are on this truck as well to keep it easy for you guys if you are trying to build something similar. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video.